Today I'm going to show you the SMITTYBILT 12,000 pound X20 winch that I installed on a 97 FZJ80. More specifically, I installed it in a 4XLABS front bumper. So check it out.
Sometimes all you have is decisions. I originally got the 9,500 pound XRC with the 6.6 and then changed my mind and got the 12,000 pound X20, and I'll be putting them in. I also got the cheesy little cover just so people can't see it. And thanks to Mike from Overland Bound, I'm putting in the differential breather tube replacement kit as well. If the weather holds up, we'll be getting to this week. This is a kit from BRC in Australia, and it's a differential breather kit. And as you can see, it's a very nicely machined piece of aluminum alloy with the connectors on the bottom and the breathers on top. It also comes with the connectors for the differentials, as well as two pretty cool stickers. It comes with everything you need to secure it as far as tie wraps. And it comes with plenty of, I'm going to guess this is polyvinyl chloride tubing. My mistake, it's actually rubber. But it's too wet. It's been raining here in Boston for days. So what we're going to turn our attention to instead, I've got a SMITTYBILT 9500 XCR right there, and I started to wonder if it was going to be able to handle the task of pulling a already extremely heavy Toyota Land Cruiser out. Because I live in Northeast, there's a lot of mud around here. So I went with the X20 12,000 pound winch. And I got this from Wonder Car Parts on eBay. And they were great about it. You notice when you open the box is the instructions. You also have mounting brackets for the solenoid, as well as very heavy duty battery cable connectors and the wireless remote control. This is wireless, and it can also be wired. You use this magnetic end to go right into the front of the winch. So you can either do it wirelessly, or you can do it the old-fashioned, more reliable way, I think, and wire it straight up. The plug comes right out of the bottom. Right out of the bottom, trying to do this one-handed, and it is now a wireless winch controller, which is pretty awesome, and there's no batteries. It's rechargeable, in and out. You gotta love that. Let's take a look at the winch. Okay, this is the solenoid. It's very well built. Here's all the wiring cables coming out of the back of it. Everything has very, very heavy connectors, and it's very well protected. Here's the flap on the outside, so if you don't want to use a wireless remote, you can simply plug it in. Again, this connection is totally magnetic, which is ideal. And I believe, I'm not positive, but I believe you can mount the solenoid anywhere you want. Here's the winch itself. SMITTYBILT already connects the cable for you directly to the winch. Actually, no, they don't. No, they don't. You have to connect it yourself, much like with any other winch. Warren's, Super Winch, SMITTYBILT. I went with the 12,000 pound because I know a couple of people that have the 12,000 pound winch on their Land Cruisers, especially the 80 series. Now mine is a large vehicle. 37-inch tires, 5-inch Australian lift, rad flow shock absorbers, supercharged. It is a very, very heavy vehicle. It has a heavy coating of AI liner on the outside. It's in military green, as well as the sliders, the rear bumpers, the spare tire. This is a heavy truck, so it is what it is. It gets about 15 miles on the highway. According to my scan gauge, it does. and about 10 on the trails. According to the scan gauge, that's what it gets. It's time for new wipers as well. But I'll do a more thorough walk around on the truck once I get some new rubber on it and get the engine bay cleaned up a little bit. It's not bad the way it stands now. Let me give you a quick look. There's the engine bay. There's the TRD supercharger. And as you can see on my dual batteries, I have a yellow top. I have a new Optima yellow top on its way. Somebody inadvertently cut the blue wire that goes to the auxiliary battery, so that I was constantly getting a bad reading on the IBS battery. So I quickly figured that out. I'm going to rewire that up today. We're going to clean up the motor, give you a better look at it. I got a new K&N filter coming for over here. New Optima battery. The engine has 40,000 on it. It was entirely, completely rebuilt. A brand new head was installed. Auxiliary transmission cooler, auxiliary fan, and the 4XLABS bumper, and that's where the SMITTYBILT is going to sit, right there. See, the SMITTYBILT 12,000 fits right in the winch cradle on the 4XLABS, no problem. And SMITTYBILT also tosses in a very nicely made Haas Fairlead for this, with the X20 emblazoned right on it. So, as you can see, the weather's turning foul right now, so I probably won't get a chance to get to this, but I'm very happy to see that this fits right in, no worries. Again, I'm going to straighten out this engine, get it all cleaned up. The guy that built this is on the I Hate Mud forums, and he is 80 Baja bound. I talk to him quite often. It's really nice buying a rig used and still be able to talk to the guy that originally built it. I'm just going to clean this thing up and get it back to where it belongs. That's it. The people that owned it after him just let things slide, and I don't do things like that. I got new battery post terminals coming. We're going to clean up all this wiring, and we're going to get this thing back to its former glory. The TRD supercharger has 40,000 miles on it. I picked this rig up in the middle of the night down in Alabama, got in, turned the key, and drove it home to Massachusetts. 1,300 miles without a single hiccup. This truck ran flawlessly. It's big. You can tell it's big when you're driving in it. 5-inch lift, as well as the 1-inch body lift. But it was worth it. It's a 97 triple locked FZJ80. And it's a beautiful rig. We're going to put some lights on it, and we're going to put some drawers in the back. As you can see, she's got the dual swing out bumper. Obviously, a truck this size, you got to carry 3 fuel tanks at least. And this is the back right here. I'm ordering up a set of drawers. I was going to make them myself, but I found a place called 4-Wheel Drive Super Center, and they build them cheaper than you can build them. And they're all aluminum with the refrigerator slide, so that's going right there. The former owner also installed this, which is phenomenal. He did all the sound deadening lining. There's 1-inch pad underneath this entire interior. He took out the entire interior, steam cleaned it all 40,000 miles ago, and put 1-inch sound deadening pad in it, and he did a phenomenal job. This truck was more than I could have ever hoped for, and again, I don't plan on doing anything too gnarly with it besides getting it back to where Mike had it. I'll also include some video, a video clip in here of this thing actually tipping over at, I believe it was the Rubicon.
Now here's the same truck I just showed you. This is before the body liner was put on, and this is the previous owner driving it. Now I've turned the volume down because, as you can tell, there's way too many spotters. And he's not getting the right information, and watch what happens. This is my truck right here.
Keep on a wheelbase, you can do it. Oh, he's pushing you to pull out. Perpendicular. Straight through. There you go. Straight ahead. Whoa! Nice! Same as me. Okay, Mike. Photo op.
Now let me tell you, Mike kept a very cool head. I would have sprung out of the driver's window and began pummeling this fella right here with the hat on that was acting like an absolute ass clown while the truck is tipped over. Nobody's checking to see if anything's in danger. No one's checking anything. They're all running around like a bunch of jackasses. Mike is a better man than I. He handled it very well. They got the truck back up on its feet, and he drove away. Now, the truck is supercharged. It's geared 488. It has an ultra-low 529, and it jumps. When you give it the gas, it does tend to jump, and I believe, that's what got him in the jam in the first place. But as you notice, they stand it right back up again. It's still running. This thing is a total beast. Now, I promised you I'd show you the winch installation. I got a little long-winded. I apologize, but I think it's worth it. If you're a gearhead, you must be loving it. So here we go. Back on its wheels. Good to go. Not even a scratch. And that was before the rear sidebars were installed. The truck is a beast.
Clearly important, but most of us already know it. But for those that don't, always check your winch before you go out. You do not want to find out that your winch is faulty or loose after you're stuck. Just my opinion. The first thing you want to do is connect the control box to the winch itself. You see the 4 screws right here? They even give you an A, B, C, and D right here. You see that? And those all correspond with the wiring harness right here on the control. And your plus cable. So you've got D, B, C, and A, A, B, C, and D. So that's pretty much straightforward. Now you're going to want to figure out where you want to install your control box. You can install it here and here. I'm going to just put mine right smack dab in the center. Easy peasy. SMITTYBILT gives you these two metal brackets that you can put on the bottom of the control box and then mount it to either side. But what I opted to do, and to try to help protect the synthetic rope a little bit, I'm mounting the control box directly in the center so it helps keep the sun off of the synthetic rope. And to do that, you don't need any of the brackets. You just use these 2 Allen screws that are located on the back, and it clamps down to these heavy-duty aluminum trusses. Now, they're not the easiest to get to, but it's also the simplest. And also, I put a little bit of thread locker on here, the breakable kind, the blue stuff, just in case.
Now make sure you figure out which way you want all these wires pointing, either up or down.
So now I've got my negatives cable, which hooks up to A, and then I have my positive cable coming straight off the motor. Everything else connects to the back of the winch motor.
Make sure you decide which way. Do you want all 4 of these cables pointing up or down and behind? This was incredibly tight to my grill. It's not quite touching, but I wanted the wiring down and behind. I ended up changing it up twice. So make sure you figure out your placement first.
And SMITTYBILT, much like Warren, supplies you with all the rubber boots to cover them up with, to give it a pretty nice, clean finish. This is a 4XLABS winch. After a lot of struggling with the bolts,
I meant to say bumper. It's a 4XLABS bumper.
In there, you see them? What I did is I got the front 2 bolts in first, and I kept tipping the entire winch back at an angle. Because of this skid plate, it's very difficult to get it in, but it does work. Your application may vary. I ended up having to take my wiring on the other side and put it down underneath so it would fit behind the bumper. But it all appears to be working out fairly well. It's no easy task, but nothing worth doing is. On this particular bumper, it's very, very tight to get in there with the bolts on the front and the back, but it's doable. Now make sure when you run the positive and negative that you find a path, we'll call it, up to either your main battery or in my case up to the spare battery tray. Keep in mind rough edges like this. Because of the 37-inch tires, the previous owner made this small cutout. I'm not going to run next to this because this is very sharp. I will put rubberized coating over this at some point, but again, I just got the vehicle. So I'm going to find the best path to run the positive and negative up to the spare battery, making sure that the flex of the body, the suspension, and no moving parts, like say, this auxiliary fan, are interfered with whatsoever. So keep that in mind. Again, the weather's holding out for now, but it looks like it's going to get really bad out. So hopefully I can wrap this up today, but if I can't, we'll put the synthetic on tomorrow and we will fire it up and check out the wireless controller on the SMITTYBILT X20 12000.
Now, right after I decided to run all the positive and negative up to my battery tray, my auxiliary battery, a friend of mine shot me a text, and I ended up watching this video, and I changed my mind for good reason. These are the guys I got my differential breathers from, right here.
Well, the question for the experts this week comes from Rick Swart, and Rick has written, what is the best way to connect a winch to the batteries? Some say the cranking battery is best, and some say the auxiliary battery. Please help.
Good question, Rick. And to answer that question, I think we head for somebody who's been around the traps for a while and has a lot of experience. I'm talking about David Brickhill from Kmart.
Hi guys, David from Kmart 4-Wheel Drive. Rick from Perth's asked us a fantastic question today, and it's one that probably a few people wonder about, which way to connect their winch up and what battery to connect it from. So this vehicle here has a winch already mounted in the bull bar, and what we're doing here is, you have a look, this is our main battery. Now you connect that to the main battery. Here we have some heavy duty cables that are connected to the positive and the negative of the battery. Now the reason we connect it to the main battery is because the alternator is in direct parallel to the main battery, so therefore there's no isolators or anything involved. So that when the engine is running, it's constantly putting charge straight back into this battery, hence all the main draw is on the main battery and coming straight off the alternator. We're not connecting it to the auxiliary battery because we use the auxiliary battery for all our other accessories. As we stated, winch, main battery, nice and simple.
And that's exactly what I did. I ended up running the positive and negative to my primary battery as opposed to the auxiliary battery.
Now it's time to bolt up the Fairlead. Now I don't have all that much room in there, as you can see, but I'll get it. Patience is the key. Make sure that when you're done, your lock nuts are flattened out completely and you give it a good snug turn. You want the base of the winch to be perfectly flat. You want this to be part of your truck. This is a 12,000-pound winch, and you do not want it coming off, especially at the wrong time.
Bolting the Fairlead up was absolutely brutal because the SMITTYBILT just fit in the bumper. It turns out the bumper by 4XLABS was only designed for an 8, 9, to 10,000 pound winch, and here I'm stuffing a 12K winch. It did work, but to be perfectly honest, I ended up having to get the 4 main bolts.
Times like this, I wish to put the
Fairlead back in.
I wish the bumper was drilled out
because it was the right way to do it.
But it is what it. One side, they always make it look super easy on television, don't they? Well, with a little bit of patience, you can have this all banged out in about an hour's time, maybe 2. We have liftoff. We have power. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is to install the cable, the synthetic rope actually. But let me show you something. Here's my auxiliary battery. As you can see, I'm taking it apart. and I'm going to put in new connectors, nice and clean. I cleaned up all the posts, but notice anything? Yeah, at the very last minute, I talked to a friend of mine who's in Australia who sent me the differential breather tube kit, and he said, do not install that on your auxiliary battery. Put it on your main battery, because your main battery is connected directly to the alternator, and it's the battery you want to go with. I did not know that, to be honest with you, so I rerouted the positive and negatives underneath and then through the lights. I will connect all this up, make sure that nothing can move while the truck is flexing or while we're out in the woods or anything like that. But right now, it is up, it is running, the winch works. I'm very excited about that. And again, this is the wireless handheld. You simply press it so it's in wireless mode, which it automatically is. Make sure the switch on the side, which is protected really well, is in the on position, and you are good to go.
Okay, so when actually fastening the cable to the drum, make sure you have it pointing in the correct direction. As far as the way I'm putting it in right now, back big part, but you want it pointing in the opposite direction. The drum really it doesn't have to flip over itself. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so the rig's running, so I'm going to spare you the sound. You can't wait my own. But I made sure I put plenty of my stress, 240 pounds, a pair of gloves on, held it really tight. Started headed on side to side, pulled on real tight. You know what I mean?
Okay, so after readjusting it, I wanted it to be pointing down so that it goes the correct way when the winch is pulling in. And you can see that right there. That's what I wanted.
That's the correct position to put it in, so that the cable's actually down the side of the truck. If you do that originally, you ended up moving around. After all the time and effort, you want to make sure that it's perfect, so it's done right the first time. Even a couple of mistakes.
Friends, is that I still have to do some securing of the wires down here, the positive and negative cable, just to make sure nothing rubs. But I have some other things I need to do down here as well. So it's all good. I left my excess right here in front of the battery. Nothing's touching moving parts, nothing's touching anything that's hot, so we are good to go. I have the winch engaged, and I have the switch in the off position. Now remember, SMITTYBILT also gives you the cable that plugs right into the side if wireless remotes aren't your thing. But it appeared to work pretty well. And I'm probably going to get a factor 55 hook. That's still in the works. We'll see. But at any rate, please like, share, subscribe, and remember to sign up. Remember to subscribe. Every month we'll be doing awesome gear giveaways, one way or another. At any rate, guys, let's get out there and get those tires dirty. So I just completed putting in the winch, and seeing how I live in a city, I'm at a local parking lot. I'm keeping my amps revved up, and I'm using the wireless to actually draw this in. They say you should have 1,000 pounds of stress on this when you first reel it up. So that's what I'm doing. Tell you what, it's not moving very fast, but it's definitely pulling the truck, no problem. Just keeping an eye, making sure I don't accidentally take out that pole. And living in the city, you got to keep an eye out, make sure nobody accidentally drives into you, because they're really, really dumb. But I'm using the wireless remote. Seems to be working fine. I have a hand throttle for this particular Land Cruiser. I just haven't put it in as of yet. But I just finished installing it. Got to keep the engine RPMs up because it's a 12,000 pound winch. It's a 6.5 horsepower engine, so there's a lot going on there. Very setup. So it just pulled me the entire length